My family and I live in Louisiana, as already been mentioned, and it's real comfortable. We get real comfortable when the heat and humidity are about 93 degrees and 74% relative humidity. But we have big problems when the weather tries to try out the northern climate for a day or two. That's exactly what happened to my family in February of 2021. Life was going great. We had no complaints. We were on the other side of 2020 and things were looking up. When all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, we get hit with not just the threat of a few flurries, but enough snow and ice to shut our southern world down. Now you have to understand something. When it even threatens to flurry, they shut schools down. And I'm not exaggerating. They have shut schools down before, and the very next day there's so much sunshine, and you would think that there was no reason at all why they made that decision. But this time it was different. The 1 or 2 inches of snow and ice mix literally ground our world to a halt. I've never seen it like this before. Not only were all the schools closed, but the grocery stores, Walmart, Lowe's, gas stations, the lights were out and they were closed for business. I mean, even McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, and all the staple fast food businesses' doors were locked and the lights were out. And let me tell you, folks, when the fast food industry shuts down, the crisis has gone way too far. Power was out everywhere, including the Quales household. You talk about an unwelcome holiday. No school kids, but we get to enjoy the winter weather without the sleds that I should have saved from growing up while up north. We get to enjoy the darkness, and we get to enjoy living in a house without a furnace and eating cold food. And we can't even go to McDonald's. The generator that I never needed until now decided that it was also closed for business that same day. Day by day, the snow and ice melted as we huddled around our kerosene heater, and that cold darkness hung on for way too long. After several days had passed, we were hungry and cold. Our bodies were weary. I looked over at my wife and I said, honey, let's load up the kids, let's journey into the town, and let's see if just maybe someone has had the courage to turn the lights on and are back open for business. Besides that, we can enjoy the nice warm heater of our Ford Expedition as we drive down the road. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. As we came to the bottom of that exit ramp, I looked hopefully, and I looked up at those golden arches on the hill. And to my utter delight, I saw a car in the drive-thru, and my world began changing for the better. I said, look, McDonald's is open. My daughter heard that I was sharing this story with you, and she said, Dad, that's a pretty sad day when you're excited that McDonald's is open. As we pulled into that parking lot, my wife commented, as wives usually do when they wonder about the decisions that their husbands are making, are you sure that McDonald's is open? I mean, she did have a reasonable question since it looked a bit dim in the customer lobby and there was only one car in the drive-thru. But I continued to pull up as the first vehicle in the second slot of that double drive-thru. As I did, I happened to glance over and notice a friendly older couple that were sitting in the car in the first lane. One of them cast a gentle glance and a smile our direction, and it was as if for a moment we both had a mutual bond that we had survived the crisis together. As we sat and waited to hear a voice asking to take our order, we each enjoyed each other's company. After a little time had passed, I glanced back over at the car beside us and noticed the gentleman talking to the speaker box, and I presumed he was talking to a McDonald's employee. I was encouraged again by that sign as we continued to wait on those familiar words, how can we help you today? But that voice never came. We discussed the fact that it was taking considerably longer than usual, but possibly maybe they were short-staffed or it was taking longer since they had just opened up later in the day. But as time progressed, we continued to exchange glances and smiles with our neighbors in lane one. But I was starting to doubt my oasis in the desert, and I decided that maybe my wife might be right, and maybe I should just pull up to the drive-thru window, peer inside, and see if maybe somebody was actually in the building. To my utter disappointment, we pulled up, and there was not a single soul in sight. Of course, we were disappointed, but that disappointment turned into shock as we rounded the front of the store. When we first pulled in, it was just simply us and our elderly friends in the drive-thru. But now, there was a line of cars that stretched clear across the parking lot and out into the road. We began laughing, and I seriously thought, man, I got the last laugh on this one. I'm out of here. But then somewhere deep inside my heart, I felt like I owed it to my society and community to somehow change the mistake that I had made. So I began pulling up to people one by one, rolling down my window. They rolled down theirs. I looked at them. They looked at me. I said, I hate to tell you this, but McDonald's is closed. Of course, we're disappointed, but they were also glad that they didn't have to sit behind the whole long of traffic. And I shared it with most of the people there, and we went our happily ever after way as we watched visions and dreams of quarter pounders with cheese vanishing before our sight. But lo and behold, just down the road in the opposite direction was yet another beacon of hope. For there stood the giant Wendy's sign. The activity in the parking lot appeared to be full and busy, and this time I was not going to make the mistake I made until I confirmed the status of that operation. But let me tell you, folks, it was real. Things were happening. People were working inside. Pretty soon a truck pulled up to me. I rolled my window down. That was not a good sign. But he looked over at me and said, hey, thank you so much for letting me know that McDonald's was shut. And I said, I just want to let you know I verified Wendy's is open. I said, I did too. Thank you very much. We got our probably $2 kids meals and whatever my wife and I wanted because we have 6 kids, and that's really great. They discontinued those. I'm very disappointed. But we got our food. We made our way out of the parking lot, and our life was headed in the better direction. And as we approached our turn to enter on the on-ramp, I asked my wife, do you think that there would still be people in that drive-thru at the Golden Arches up on the hill? She said, I don't know. Can we just go home? And I said, oh, I have to go see. And so we again yet drove to that same parking lot, and I was blown away to discover that line was just as full as ever of people waiting to get something that was not available. As I drove away that day, I couldn't help but laugh, but also think about the fact that certainly I had changed many people's lives that day by pulling into the drive-thru, and it wasn't for the better. I had influenced, I had made a difference in my local community, and I turned people's lives upside down for a moment, but I can tell you this, I'm not being considered for the Nobel Peace Prize or anybody's magazine Man of the Year award. It certainly got me thinking about a more sobering thought, and that is this: we have an influence.